Okay, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about the concept of rewilding. So we started kind of doing a rewilding project before we knew what rewilding was, or before that was a term. But the basic idea is that you're taking your yard or your garden and you're trying to make it as close as possible to the natural ecosystem again, so like it was before your home was built, basically. And there's a lot of strategies for doing that. Some people will spend tons of money doing it. Obviously we could not afford to do that, so it's going to take longer if you do it the way that we've done it, but I think in the long term it's probably a better way to do it. So as you can probably see, we've got quite a few different wildflower varieties back here at this point. And what we did was we just started throwing seeds out year after year of mostly things that are more, if you start out with things that are like more like weedy pioneer type native species, then you're more likely to have luck in the beginning. So throwing out seeds and then putting down organic material on top of the soil. Those are the ways that we started. And you can use manure, you can use compost, you can use decomposed mulch or wood chips. We hauled in, you can talk to the Forest Service and get a permit to go out and get some of the wood chips that they've chipped for different projects where they were doing thinning. And a lot of that material will have a lot of wildflower seeds in it too. Sometimes it has weeds in there too, so you have to be careful. I would also strongly suggest we put in a lot of grass plugs also, and then threw out a lot of grass seed as well, and that's important because in our natural ecosystem there's a lot of grasses, and that they coexist, and you know they're part of the ecosystem that you're trying to create for the benefit of the insects and the birds and other wildlife. It's also it's a good idea to go ahead and add native trees and shrubs as well, which it's possible to add those using seeds, but it's definitely a good idea to go ahead and purchase some or grow some and then plant them in your yard in kind of strategic areas. We plant mostly fruit-producing trees, since we kind of figure if we're going to be watering them, we want to get some food off of them. But there are native fruit-producing trees that you can choose. You can grow things like chokecherries. You can grow things like native currants, elderberry, things like that, or things that are at least similar to native things that we have that are lower water. We've also got some mountain mahogany, which is a very slow growing but extremely low water plant that I put in here that, sometime after I'm dead I'll turn into a tree, probably. But you gotta plant for the future. What? Here's some more of the little whirling butterfly plant. I really like those, so I spread seeds for them pretty regularly. So you can see we do still have weeds. So I do still have to weed semi-regularly. I'll weed a couple of times a year at least before things go to seed, and go ahead and compost them. So that's kind of, it's adding seed, adding nutrients, pulling weeds. So these ones that I'm pulling here, these are called kochia. They're especially common in Donny Park. Chickens eat them, which is nice. But I want to make sure that they're not reproducing more in the yard. This is a winter fat plant, super low water. I actually transplanted it back here and hardly watered it at all, and it managed to keep growing. These guys are horehound, which is technically an invasive species of mint. But they have medicinal properties, and as long as they're not, the seeds get in your socks, but as long as they don't take over, I kind of like to have a couple of them around to make teas and stuff out of, so I don't bug them too much. This is native amaranth, wild amaranth. It's definitely considered weedy. I'll take it out in areas where they have pokey seeds where I don't want them poking me. And then of course we've got lots of elm trees, which some of them I leave, some of them I transplant, but most of them end up just going away. So these are Globemallow. There's a few different varieties of Globemallow, but these are one of my favorite plants, and they're easy to start. Once you have a few, you have a lot. We've got some native sage. We have some native grasses. These guys are everywhere right now. I think there's some sort of native whirling butterfly. So Rocky Mountain bee plant is another really good one that we've got. We just started getting this coming in the last couple of years. And I've experienced that, but there's seeds that I've thrown out that didn't come up for years. These guys need 4 months of overwintering before they'll germinate. So you throw the seeds out in the early winter probably, and they will form in these little seed pods. Once they start getting kind of hard, you can, and they easily open when you slide your fingers across them, then the seeds are ready. You want the seeds to be like black or dark brown. And these are great for insects too. Obviously Rocky Mountain bee plant, bees love it. And it's, like I said, actually I don't know if I said, it's a nitrogen fixing plant, and it likes disturbed soils, so it's really good for rehabbing. I usually will plant this. We don't have a whole lot of sunflowers back here, but I will usually put sunflowers in with these guys, partly because it's just a pretty color combination, and also because sunflowers are really good at cleaning your soil. Let's see, we've got a lot of this, which I believe that is wild tarragon is one of the names that I've heard for it, but I don't know a whole lot about it. Yeah, we've got a peach tree here. We've got 3-leaf sumac is the shrub we've got right here. Those are really easy to grow, and they're low water. And then we've got goldenrod, and over here we have some, well, I don't know if you can see, yeah, we've got some volunteer yarrow, which is nice. But you know, our backyard is slowly becoming just like a wildflower field, which is wonderful. But something that I found is you start off with certain species and then it transitions to other species of the native guys. So you just keep throwing out seeds, and year after year you're going to have some changes. Some years there's going to be some of a lot of things, and some years there will be some of a lot of new things that you've never seen before. And don't worry too much about those transitions, because it has to do with where your soil is in the rehab process, and that'll kind of determine what does the best native plant wise. And for a long time we had a lot of foxtails back here. It was actually squirrel tail, which is a native, and the more nutrients we added to the soil, the more those moved out, and more of the long-term perennial grasses and wildflowers started to move in. So don't expect it to be like you throw out seeds the first year and then, you know, you have a completely new yard. Like, you can, if you put in a lot of seeds, you can get to the point where you have like, you know, a semblance of a really nice yard within a year or two, but you know, these things take time. Rehabilitation of any soils or anything like that is going to take time, but it's totally worth it, especially when you walk in your backyard during monsoon season and it's just full of color. Improves your quality of life as well as the quality of life of the critters that are living around you as well.